How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode in the Walking Jazz Standard series. In this video, we're going to be looking at Tadd Dameron's Ladybird. Now, we have covered this tune way back in episode 8 of this series, something like 8 or 9 years ago. But I recently received some constructive criticism from one of my lovely patrons over on Patreon. I'd like to ask you a question which has an obvious answer, but remains a bit obscure to me. I am playing along to the Ladybird demo from your series, and understand you wrote that line as a teaching tool. Walking bass is making so much more sense today than it did in the past. The other lesson which I am still unraveling is the Matrix lesson. What I don't understand is that it sounds nothing like the Tadd Dameron cover. Frankly, that original recording is hard to play along to, as it doesn't make sense to me. How am I to take your demo and understand how it applies to the original recording? I've reached a bump in the road and I need a bit of direction. Great points you make here, Marco. When I wrote these lines, I was experimenting with different melodic approaches to walking bass, targeting the thirds and fifths more, playing sequences, etc. Because of this approach, the lines are not as straight ahead sounding. To be honest, I felt this was more beneficial to me, more so than the viewers. i.e., it's more of an advanced concept, which I was doing more of back then. I think it would be worth redoing this song for the series with some more standard walking lines. I still think these lines are worth practicing to expose you to new ideas with your walking, but they are more exercise-based than anything else. I hope this clears things up a bit. Smiley face. So, with all of that said, the walking bass line that I've prepared for this lesson is very straight ahead. Using walking bass vocabulary you'll actually use in a jam session or on your next gig. I'm using the lead sheet from the 6th edition Real Book in Bass Clef on page 235 if you want to play along with me. Okay, let's discuss the chords and form for Ladybird. Ladybird has a 16 measure form and we're cycling through 3 different key centers. We're starting in the key of C, C major, which has no sharps or flats. The second key is E flat major, which has B flat, E flat, and A flat in the key signature. And the third key is A flat major, which has 4 flats, B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat in the key signature. The form starts with C major 7, the 1 chord in the key of C, for 2 measures, and then we're going to go into a 2-5 in the key of E flat, F minor 7, B flat 7, but we don't go to the 1 chord, we go right back to the 1 chord of C. This is what's known as a backdoor 2-5. We're playing the 2 chord of E flat major, F minor 7, the 5 chord of E flat major, B flat 7, and then we're going to go up a step back to the home key of C major, which is C major 7. There are a couple of different types of what's called backdoor 2-5-1s. This is probably the most common. If you think of a tune like, what's the tune called? If you think of the tune It Could Happen to You, there is a similar kind of backdoor 2-5-1, but we're playing in the key of E flat major, we're playing A minor 7, D7, and then back to E flat major. So that is a backdoor 2-5 where the 5 chord goes up by a half step in that tune. In this tune, Ladybird, the 5 chord goes up by a whole step. And so that's the kind of backdoor 2-5 we're using for this song. And then again, we got C major 7 for 2 more measures. And then we're going to go to B flat minor 7 and E flat 7, the 2-5 into the new key A flat. 5, A flat major 7. 2 measures of A flat. And then we've got another 2-5, which would be the 2-5 in G major, but we don't actually go into the key of G, much like the 2-5 in E flat major. We're going to play A minor 7, D7. And then instead of going to the expected G major 7 chord, we're going to go to the 2-5 in C, D minor 7, G7, and then back to C major 7 again. Last 2 measures of the form we're playing what's called the Ladybird turnaround. Now this turnaround is made famous by this tune, and it's a very different sounding turnaround than any of the other ones you've ever learned. The most popular or most commonly played turnaround in jazz music is just a 1-6-2-5 turnaround. In the key of C, that would be C major 7, A minor 7, or sometimes we can play it as A7 with a C sharp in there, D minor 7, G7, then back to 1 again. This turnaround is very different, and it sounds very different. We're playing C major 7 like normal, and then going to E flat 7, which is the 5 of A flat major 7, and then we're doing D flat 7, which is a tritone substitution for G7. That's a totally different topic. If you don't know what that all means, don't worry about it, but the D flat 7 can resolve down to a C7 as well. Okay, so that's the Ladybird turnaround. We're playing 1, flat 3 as a dominant 7, so E flat 7, flat 6 major 7, A flat major 7, D flat 7, that's flat 2 dominant 7, back to C. All right, making sense? Not really? Good.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So to make our walking lines sound a bit more straight ahead on this tune, well, the first thing we're going to start with is walk-ups and walk-downs, a topic we've covered many times on this channel already, but they really are classic walking bass vocabulary that we all need to get into our walking lines because they sound so good, and it's a very fundamental part of the jazz language. So let's get them into this tune. There are two types of walk-ups. The first one we can use over either the 2 chord or the 5 chord in 2-5-1s. So this is the first pattern, and the first example comes from the third measure of the first chorus over F minor 7. So we'll play F, the root, and then we'll go up a step to G, the second, up a half step to the minor third, A flat, up another half step, A natural, and up one more half step to the next root of B flat 7. So that's the interval pattern. Try to learn the interval pattern, and then it's easy to apply them to every 2-5-1 chord progression in every key. You play your root note, up a step, up a half step, up another half step, and then up another half step. Now this pattern can be applied on the 2 chord. It can also be applied on the 5 chord. Step, half step, and then we get to the 1 E flat major 7. The second pattern for walk-ups comes from measure 8, and in this measure we're playing the 5 chord over the 2-5-1 in A flat. So in the measure before, we started with the B flat minor 7, the 2 chord, and then we're walking up using pattern 1. And pattern 2 is we're going to play root note and then half step now on beat 2, E natural, half step again, that would be the natural 2, so now F, and then we're going to put the whole step on the 4th beat. So it's a bit different. The first pattern, we put the whole step on beat 2, But now in this pattern, we're putting the whole step on beat 4. Root, sharp root, 2, 3, whole step, A flat major 7. Now this pattern is pretty much only used on the 5 chord. It doesn't really work so well on the 2 chord. But the first pattern can be played on either chord, on the 2 chord or on the 5 chord. So it's a very versatile walk-up pattern and shape to learn on the bass. Next, we'll be playing some arpeggios over the chord changes. You need to play more arpeggios. Let me say that again. You need to play more arpeggios in your walking bass lines. They're great for outlining the chords because there is no better way to outline a chord than to play the notes that are in the chord. Okay, so play arpeggios, practice them, get them under your fingers as best as you can. We'll start with C major 7. That's a very easy chord. Just ascend the chord up to the root and back down. That's your first exercise. Root, 3rd, 5th, major 7, octave. You can play it with the open G string like I just did there, or you can play the G on the 5th fret of the D string. That shape can also be moved around the bass. We can put the root note, this exact same root note, on the E string. 3rd fret A string, I'll shift it over to the 8th fret E string, and the same shape can be played. You can play it with that fingering. You can play it with the 1 finger per fret fingering, like that. Any way you have to do it, just practice your arpeggios. So that's 1 octave, but always remember to practice the notes beneath that root note. C. Now we're going to go backwards in the arpeggio. We have to think backwards. B is the major 7. There it is. 2nd fret, A string. G is the 5th. 3rd fret E string. And open E string is the 3rd. So we've got these wonderful notes down here that we can use for our walk lines too. Don't forget about them. They sound really good. You always want to try to play walking lines that ascend the neck, but that also descend. And play them in different patterns. You can jump down to the open 3rd and walk back up. Think about these ideas. Don't always just ascend in one direction. Play patterns. Leave out notes. When you think about arpeggios in this way, it opens up your ear to lots of different possibilities. When you see a chord like C major 7, you don't just instantly play the same phrase. You think about the arpeggio notes and you play them differently. You can jump up to the 7 and play all sorts of lines like that. So think about them like that. And now let's go on to the next idea, which is the ladybird turnaround. So the first example pops up in the last 2 measures of chorus 1. That will be measures 15 and 16. And that sounds like this. So what we're playing is we're playing the root of C major 7, then the 2nd, the root of E flat 7, open A string, which is a chromatic passing note from above into the root of A flat major 7. Then the 3rd of A flat, which is C, the root of D flat 7, and then B natural or C flat, which is the flat 7 of D flat, which resolves nicely back to the root of C major 7 for the start of chorus 2. It's worth practicing these lines a bunch of times. Get the sound in your ear and get the shapes under your fingers. Very important for this turnaround since it's so unusual. All right, the second example is at the end of chorus 2, and that's measures 31 to 32, and that sounds like this. And just to run through those notes, it's the same opening passage. Root 2nd on C major, root on E flat 7. Now we're going to play the third, G, as an open string, and then the root of A flat major 7, down to the 5th, back up to the A flat note. This is now going to be the 5th of D flat 7. And then we'll go up by step to B flat, and then up by a step again to the root of C major 7. That's all for now. Head on over to my Patreon page and pick up the bass line. It's available there in standard notation with tab underneath. Or alternatively, you can pick it up from my website, jaredplain.com. Just head to the store section. Thanks so much for checking out the video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found some new ideas that you can use for this tune. Stay tuned for the next one, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Take care.